I am Thomas Reed, a 58-year-old engineer from Bellevue, Washington. After a grueling business trip to Denver, I pulled into our driveway late one evening, the weight of negotiations still on my shoulders. I hit the garage door opener and watched it rise, expecting the usual quiet of our home. Instead, there sat our minivan, locked tight, with Linda slumped inside, unresponsive. My heart stopped. I pounded on the window, but she didn't stir. Keys shaking in my hand, I unlocked the doors and found her pale, breathing shallowly from the heat buildup. I called 911 immediately. Paramedics arrived fast, rushing her to the hospital. The doctor later explained she'd been trapped for hours, oxygen low, and if it had been 24 more hours, it would have turned fatal from dehydration and exhaustion. As Linda recovered in the ICU, my mind raced through the impossibilities. Our son Ethan and his wife Kayla had borrowed the van that morning for errands. This wasn't an accident, the keys were missing, and the locks showed no signs of tampering from outside. Rage boiled, but I pushed it down. Yelling or seeking revenge would tear our family apart publicly. Instead, I chose to act quietly and methodically, gathering facts before deciding our next steps. The days after Linda's hospitalization blurred into a haze of hospital visits and quiet consultations with doctors. She stabilized quickly, her color returning as fluids and rest worked their magic. But the questions gnawed at me. Ethan and Kayla had the van that morning, claiming they needed it for a quick drive to pick up supplies for their latest business idea. I replayed the phone call in my mind, Ethan's casual assurance that they'd return it by noon. When they didn't, and my calls went unanswered, I assumed they were caught up in traffic. Now, it all pointed to something darker. I didn't confront them right away. Instead, I focused on Linda's recovery, driving her home a week later under clear skies that belied the storm inside me. We settled into our routine, but the minivan sat in the garage like a silent accusation. I had it towed to a mechanic for a full check, tires fine, no mechanical issues, just the locks engaged from inside. The keys turned up days later, slipped under our door in an unmarked envelope. No note, no explanation. It took another 2 weeks for Ethan to reach out. He called one evening as I reviewed blueprints at the kitchen table, Linda resting nearby. His voice carried that familiar mix of urgency and charm. "Dad, we need to talk business," he said. "Kayla and I have pivoted. Forget the bike cafe, it was too niche. Now we're looking at an eco-digital franchise. It's cutting edge, sustainable products with app-based sales, referrals driving the revenue. We just need $45,000 to get in on the ground floor." I paused, setting down my pen. This sounded like a rebrand of their previous schemes. The Bike Cafe had been their pitch 6 months ago, a community hub for cyclists with coffee and rentals. I'd given them $20,000 then, against my better judgment, only to watch it vanish into startup costs with no returns. Now this? I asked for details, and Ethan emailed over glossy brochures and projections. Kayla joined the call, her tone eager. "It's perfect for us, Thomas. Eco-friendly, digital tracking for inventory, think green tech meets e-commerce." That night, after hanging up, I dove into research. I pulled financial disclosures from the franchise's website and cross-referenced with state business filings. The numbers didn't add up. Income streams relied heavily on recruiting new members through referrals, with only 2% net profit after fees. It was the same pyramid structure, just wrapped in solar panels and app icons. Testimonials glowed, but digging deeper revealed complaints on consumer forums, people out thousands with no product deliveries. I forwarded the findings to a financial advisor friend, who confirmed it: high risk, low reward, designed to enrich the top while bottom-rung investors like Ethan and Kayla footed the bill. The next morning, I called them back. "I'm out," I said flatly. "This is a new skin on the old game. You're chasing ghosts again." Ethan pushed, citing market trends and our passion, but I held firm. Kayla jumped in then, her voice sharpening. "You've never helped us, Thomas." "Not really. We bust our backs, and you sit on your savings like a miser." That accusation hit like a slap, but I stayed calm. "Never helped?" "Let's review the books." I pulled up our joint bank statements, digital copies I'd kept for taxes, and shared my screen during the video call. There it was, line by line, $80,000 over 3 years. First, $35,000 for their down payment on that starter home in Tacoma, co-signed by me to get them a decent rate. Then $15,000 for inventory when Kayla launched her boutique, dresses and accessories that gathered dust in storage units. Emergency loans twice, $10,000 when Ethan's car transmission failed during a job hunt, and another $5,000 for medical bills after Kayla's minor surgery. Even $15,000 last year for car repairs on their SUV, which they totaled in a fender bender they never reported properly. As I scrolled through the transfers, Ethan's face paled on the screen. Kayla crossed her arms, silent. "This isn't ingratitude?" I asked. "We've built you up time and again, and every dollar circles back to the next sure thing." Ethan mumbled excuses about bad timing and learning curves, but the evidence spoke louder. This wasn't a lack of support, it was a pattern of taking without giving back, each handout enabling the next poor choice. The call ended awkwardly, with promises to think it over, but I knew the truth had cracked their facade. In the quiet that followed, Linda and I discussed it over coffee. She squeezed my hand, her eyes steady. "They're adults now, Tom. 26 and 24. Time to stand on their own." I nodded, but doubt lingered. Ethan's excuses always came with a twist, a way to shift blame. Still, I refused to fuel another fire. Instead, I hired a private investigator the next day, a discreet firm out of Seattle recommended by a colleague. "Dig into their finances, living situation, anything that explains the van," I instructed. Cost me $2,500 upfront, but peace of mind was worth it. The report started arriving within a week, each one a domino tipping the next. First, their landlord in Bellevue, the lease wasn't renewed. The owner cited disruptive behavior and unpaid utilities, $1,200 overdue. Ethan and Kayla had been late on rent 3 months running, scraping by on gig work. Then, housing applications, 6 apartment complexes in the area had rejected them outright. Background checks flagged pending elder abuse charges, linked to the minivan incident. Police reports showed Kayla had been questioned briefly, her story about forgetting the keys unraveling under scrutiny. No charges yet, but the civil suit Linda and I filed for emotional distress hung over them like a shadow. Work followed suit. Ethan's job at the tech startup, entry-level coding, ended abruptly. His boss cited performance issues, but the investigator uncovered emails. Ethan had missed deadlines, distracted by side hustles, and the final straw was a company laptop borrowed for personal use. Unemployed again, with Kayla's boutique limping along on Etsy sales that barely covered shipping. The financial hits piled on. Their bail loan, $10,000 posted after a minor traffic violation escalated, went into default. Collectors hounded them, and their credit score plummeted to 510, locking them out of new loans or even basic rentals. Legal aid clinics turned them away for the civil suit, pro bono slots were full, and their case didn't qualify as low-income hardship with family assets in the picture. Eviction notices loomed, and whispers from neighbors painted a picture of constant arguments, money woes spilling into the street. Each revelation hardened my resolve. This wasn't punishment, it was consequence catching up. Ethan and Kayla had built a house of cards on borrowed time and money, and now it teetered. I shared the bare bones with Linda, who nodded solemnly. "The system's doing its job," she said. We didn't gloat. Quiet relief settled in its place. Weeks turned into a tense standoff after the investigators' reports landed. Ethan and Kayla went radio silent. No doubt scrambling to hold their crumbling life together. I kept my routine, work at the engineering firm, evenings with Linda tending our small garden in Bellevue. The civil suit progressed slowly through the courts, our lawyer filing motions for discovery. We didn't push for criminal charges, the elder abuse flags in their background sufficed to block new opportunities. Quietly, I monitored their online footprints, social media posts thinned out, replaced by vague pleas for support during tough times. No direct asks to us, which was a small mercy. Then, one rainy afternoon in late fall, my phone buzzed with Ethan's number. I hesitated, glancing at Linda in the living room, then answered. His voice cracked from the start. "Dad, please. We made a terrible mistake. Everything's falling apart. The job, the apartment, it's all gone. We need help, just this once." He sounded broken, the charm stripped away. I let him talk, noting the desperation. This was the first crack in their united front, an admission after months of denial. I leaned back in my chair, the patter of rain on the window steady. "A mistake, Ethan? Locking your mother in a vehicle for hours, nearly killing her, that's more than a slip-up." He rushed on, excuses tumbling out. "It was heat of the moment, Dad. We were arguing about money, the business. I never meant for it to go that far. Intent, he called it. As if planning didn't count." I cut in firmly. "Intent doesn't erase responsibility. You knew the risks, 24 hours more, and she'd be gone. That's not a mistake, that's deliberate." Silence stretched, then he shifted. "It was Kayla's idea, really. She had a panic attack that day, freaking out about the franchise rejection. She said we needed to show you we were serious, make a point. I just went along." Blame shifted in an instant, from we to her alone. My grip tightened on the phone. This was classic Ethan, dodge when cornered. "Save it for the lawyers," I said. "You're an adult, 26 years old. Own your choices." He pleaded more, voice rising, but I ended the call mid-sentence and blocked the number. "No more games." Linda overheard from the doorway, her expression a mix of sorrow and steel. "He'll learn, or he won't," she said. We moved on, focusing on her therapy sessions to process the trauma. The hearing loomed 2 weeks out, a preliminary for the civil suit, where we'd seek restitution for medical bills and emotional damages. In the interim, we didn't celebrate or dwell. Quiet satisfaction settled in, the system churned methodically, consequences unfolding without our intervention. I doubted Ethan's remorse, it rang hollow, more regret at being caught than true sorrow for the act. He'd always been the golden boy, quick with smiles and schemes, but this crossed a line into endangerment. Linda and I talked it over during quiet dinners, weighing forgiveness against self-preservation. "They need to face it," I told her. She agreed, her recovery strengthening her resolve. Then came the second twist, delivered by our lawyer in a sealed envelope. A neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove from 2 doors down, had reached out anonymously at first, then in person. She'd installed a Ring camera after a string of porch thefts, and it captured audio from the street that fateful morning. The footage showed nothing visual, our driveway angled wrong, but the sound was clear, Ethan and Kayla's voices, heated, carrying over the fence. I played the recording in our living room, volume low. Kayla's tone dominated, sharp and insistent. "If your dad won't listen, we have to make him. Borrow the van, lock it up with his precious Linda inside. Show him we're in charge, that we won't beg anymore. It's just a lesson, he'll cave when he sees we're serious." Ethan hesitated in the audio, mumbling, "This is crazy, Kay. What if something happens?" But she pressed, "Nothing will. She's tough. Prove to Dad who's running this show now." The clip ended with the van door slamming, keys jingling. Mrs. Hargrove explained she'd held onto it, unsure, until seeing the police report in the local paper. "I couldn't let it slide," she said, handing over the USB. It corroborated everything, the deliberate lock-in. Not a forgotten key or accident. Kayla's pressure laid bare, Ethan's complicity confirmed. I thanked her profusely, and our lawyer filed it as evidence immediately. This wasn't just audio, it was a smoking gun, dismantling any defense of panic or mishap. The revelation hit hard, but not with surprise. It solidified what I'd sensed: their entitlement ran deep, a toxic blend of resentment and control. Ethan wasn't the victim, he chose sides. Linda listened to it once, then asked me to delete her copy. Enough poison, she said. We fortified our home, new locks, a security system upgrade, not out of fear, but finality. The hearing would expose it all, and we'd be ready. As the date approached, their lawyer contacted ours with an offer. Ethan and Kayla proposed a settlement, $5,000 upfront, public apologies via notarized letters to us and the court, a written admission of full guilt and a complete waiver of any future inheritance claims. No counters, no trials, just capitulation. I reviewed it with Linda over tea, the rain still falling. Is this forgiveness? She asked. No, I replied. It's the end. They fold, we close the book. Our lawyer advised acceptance, dragging it out would cost more in fees than the payout. But the real value lay in the terms, total surrender. Then the third twist emerged. Embedded in the settlement was Ethan's sworn statement, affidavit and witnessed. In it, he detailed the incident plainly. On that morning, Kayla and I deliberately locked Linda in the minivan as a lesson to Thomas, to force his attention and compliance. We knew she was inside and intended to leave her until he responded. It was not an accident. No loopholes, no qualifiers. He confirmed the audio's context, admitting the pressure but owning the act. Kayla signed a parallel statement, echoing the guilt. This closed every door. The courtroom chapter ended before it began, the settlement filed that week. I signed off, feeling not triumph, but release. Ethan and Kayla vanished from our lives after that, new city, new start, untraceable. Linda and I rebuilt, stronger. The scars a reminder of boundaries crossed and reclaimed. The settlement papers arrived by certified mail the morning after we agreed to the terms. I sat at our oak dining table in Bellevue, the same one where Ethan used to do homework as a kid, and read through them line by line. Linda peered over my shoulder, her hand steady on my arm. The $5,000 check was enclosed, drawn from a joint account that looked nearly depleted. The apologies followed. 2 notarized letters, one from each. Ethan's read like a script: I deeply regret my actions in endangering Linda and betraying your trust, Dad. I take full responsibility and promise no further contact. Kayla's mirrored it, adding a plea for understanding. The inheritance waiver was ironclad, signed before witnesses, severing any future claims on our estate. Our lawyer called that afternoon to confirm filing. It's done, he said. No hearing, no appeals. Clean break. I thanked him and hung up, staring out at the evergreen trees lining our street. Quiet satisfaction filled the room, not the explosive kind, but a steady hum. The system had worked, methodically, without fanfare. Consequences had mounted until they had no choice but to fold. Linda and I didn't toast or throw a party. We shared a simple lunch, turkey sandwiches and herbal tea, discussing the garden we planned to expand next spring. It's over, she said softly. We can breathe now. But doubt about Ethan's remorse lingered like morning fog. In my quieter moments, reviewing the investigator's final report, I saw the pattern clear. His sworn statement, while damning, carried that edge of self-preservation. He admitted the deliberate lock-in as a lesson, confirmed the audio where Kayla urged him to prove to Dad who's in charge, yet framed it as a shared lapse born of desperation. Regret for getting caught, yes, that shone through in his pleading call, the sudden blame shift to her panic attack. But true sorrow for the harm? I doubted it. At 26, he'd had chances to change, yet chose entitlement over accountability time and again. The $80,000 we'd poured in, homes, businesses, repairs, fueled his illusions, not growth. This capitulation felt like survival, not transformation. We fortified our life in subtle ways. New smart locks on the doors, a camera system covering the driveway, no more unmarked envelopes or surprise visits. I updated our will that month, redirecting assets to charities Linda favored, local food banks and elder care programs, ironic given the charges that haunted them. Work at the engineering firm picked up, a new contract for sustainable infrastructure kept me busy, blueprints sprawling across my desk. Evenings, Linda and I walked the neighborhood, nodding to Mrs. Hargrove, who smiled knowingly but said nothing. Her audio had been the linchpin, exposing the pressure dynamics without a single visual cue. Months passed, and their absence became normal. No holiday cards, no social media tags. The private investigator sent a closing update. Ethan and Kayla relocated to Spokane, 300 miles east, scraping by on low-wage jobs, him in warehouse logistics, her restarting a small online shop. Credit rebuilt slowly to 620, but black marks remained. The elder abuse flags followed, blocking better prospects. Bail collectors settled for pennies, and the boutique folded quietly. No new schemes reported, perhaps the weight of it all grounded them, or maybe they just found new marks. I reflected often during long drives to site visits. Fatherhood had been my anchor, raising Ethan after his mother's early passing, instilling values of hard work and honesty. Engineering taught me precision, building from solid foundations, yet I'd overlooked the cracks in his. The minivan incident crystallized it, not a one-off, but the culmination of years where support enabled avoidance. Refusing the EcoDigital franchise was my first firm no, peeling back the ingratitude. Kayla's accusation of never helping echoed hollow against the bank statements, revealing not neglect, but enablement. Linda's therapy helped us both process. Sessions focused on boundaries, not blame. You acted with grace, her counselor told me during a joint visit. Quietly, without vengeance, that's strength. She was right. The twists, the blame shift call, the neighbor's recording, Ethan's affidavit, unraveled their narrative step by step. Each one closed a loophole, turning defense into admission. The settlement wasn't forgiveness, it was closure, a finale where they surrendered everything: money, pride, legacy. One crisp winter day, as snow dusted the Cascades visible from our hill, I cleared out the garage. The minivan, repaired and sold months prior, left space for tools and Linda's art supplies. I found an old photo album tucked in a box, Ethan at 10, grinning on a fishing trip, me teaching him to cast. Nostalgia tugged, but I set it aside. That boy was gone, the man he'd become needed to forge his path alone. Life rebuilt around us. Linda volunteered at the community center, sharing her story anonymously to warn others about family financial traps. I mentored young engineers, emphasizing ethical decisions over quick wins. No contact came, and we didn't seek it. The quiet satisfaction evolved into peace, knowing we'd protected ourselves without descending to their level. Yet, in rare moments, I wondered about redemption. If Ethan truly changed, would the door crack open? Probably not. Trust, once shattered like that, doesn't mend easily. The system's work, our methodical response, it all led here, to a life unburdened. And that, I realized, was the real victory. Spring arrived in Bellevue with a burst of color, cherry blossoms lining the streets like pink confetti. It had been 6 months since the settlement, and our home felt lighter, the shadows of that awful day receding. I threw myself into work, leading a team on a bridge retrofit project over Lake Washington, solid beams and calculations grounding me in the tangible. Linda blossomed too, her garden overflowing with herbs and flowers, a therapy of sorts. We hosted a small dinner for neighbors one evening, Mrs. Hargrove among them, but the minivan topic stayed buried, unspoken respect sealing our bond. Still, Ethan's ghost lingered in quiet ways. I found myself reviewing old emails during lunch breaks. Traces of his pitches, the bike cafe with its hand-drawn logos, the eco-franchise spreadsheets promising exponential growth. Each one a red flag I'd ignored too long, chalking it up to youthful ambition. At 58, with retirement on the horizon, I questioned my role. Had I been too soft, providing the $80,000 safety net that cushioned failure? The bank statements, once a shield in that video call, now served as a lesson in my own patterns, enabling out of love, not wisdom. One Saturday, clearing the attic for a long overdue purge, I unearthed a box of Ethan's childhood mementos. Report cards with A's in math, like mine, a model rocket we'd built together, its fins still sharp. A letter from him at 16, thanking me for coaching his soccer team. Nostalgia hit, but so did clarity. That boy dreamed big, but adulthood twisted it into schemes. The deliberate lock-in wasn't born in a vacuum, it stemmed from years of unmet expectations, Kayla amplifying the resentment. Her audio words, "Prove to Dad who's in charge," revealed the core: control, not need. I shared the finds with Linda over coffee, the steam rising like unspoken regrets. "Do you think he'll reach out?" she asked, pruning shears idle in her lap. I shook my head. "If he does, it'll be for more than apologies." We'd blocked numbers, but curiosity led me to check public records occasionally, nothing alarming, just a utility bill in Spokane under their names, stability fragile as glass. The investigators' final note mentioned counseling referrals they'd ignored, credit inching up but jobs stagnant. Consequences echoed, a ripple effect from one choice. Work offered distraction. The bridge project hit a milestone, my designs approved by the state. Colleagues noticed my focus, one asking over beers if family troubles had eased. I nodded vaguely, steering to safer topics. Mentoring a junior engineer reminded me of Ethan, sharp mind, but needing discipline. Build on facts, not wishes, I advised, echoing what I'd failed to instill at home. Linda's volunteer work deepened. At the community center, she led workshops on elder safety, anonymizing our story into hypotheticals. What if a family member borrows your car and forgets you inside? Attendees nodded, sharing their own tales of boundary breaches. It empowered her, turning pain into purpose. I joined once, speaking on financial red flags in family dynamics, pyramid schemes disguised as dreams. No names, but the $45,000 pitch fueled my examples, the 2% profit margin a cautionary tale. Summer brought heat, mirroring that trapped day. We sold the houseboat we'd planned to share with the kids someday, too many memories tied to family outings. Proceeds went to an education fund for nieces and nephews, boundaries clear. A weekend hike in the Olympics cleared my head, peaks sharp against blue skies. Up there, decisions felt smaller, the world's machinery turning without us. Then, an unexpected echo, a letter arrived, forwarded through our lawyer, postmarked from Portland. Not Ethan, his cousin, Mark, who'd heard whispers through family channels. Ethan's changed, it read. Therapy, steady job at a distribution center. Kayla's expecting, they're scared but trying. No ask for money, just an olive branch. I read it aloud to Linda, her eyes thoughtful. Believe it? She asked. Half, I said. Remorse needed proof, not words. We drafted a neutral reply, wishing well, no invitations, closing the loop without reopening wounds. Fall leaves turned, and reflection deepened. The twists replayed, Ethan's blame shift call, snapping the illusion of unity, the audio's revelation of pressure, humanizing yet damning, the affidavit's finality, Ethan's own words sealing guilt. Each peeled layers, exposing not monsters, but flawed people chasing control. My quiet method, investigator, refusals, suit, proved effective, avoiding vengeance's trap. Satisfaction grew into gratitude, we'd emerged intact. Now, at 59, I eyed retirement, consulting gigs, travel with Linda. A trip to Denver, ironically, to revisit that business trip site. Life cycled, lessons etched. Fatherhood's end wasn't loss, but evolution, releasing what couldn't be fixed. Ethan might rebuild. Or not. Our path diverged. Peaceful and firm winter gripped Bellevue with its usual chill, frost-etching patterns on our windows like fragile memories. A year had passed since the settlement, and the rhythm of our days had solidified into something resilient. I transitioned to part-time at the firm, handing off the bridge project to my team, their success a quiet validation of my years there. Mornings now meant coffee with Linda on the porch, watching neighbors bustle, life moving forward, unpaused. The $5,000 from the settlement sat untouched in a savings account, earmarked for her new hobby, pottery classes at the community center. Clay on her hands brought color to her cheeks, a creative outlet replacing the voids left by family fractures. Reflections on Ethan sharpened during quieter hours. I pored over a journal I'd started post-incident, entries detailing the dominoes, lease non-renewal, job loss, credit plunge. Each entry ended with a note on intent versus impact, his call's desperate admission, the blame on Kayla's panic, ringing false even then. The audio from Mrs. Hargrove replayed in my mind, her voice pressuring him to prove to Dad who's in charge. It humanized the betrayal, showing not cold malice, but a desperate power play. Yet his affidavit, deliberately locked as a lesson, erased excuses, owning the near-fatal choice. Remorse? Still doubtful. At 27 now, he'd had time to grow, but patterns suggested convenience over conviction. Work's slowdown allowed deeper dives into personal projects. I volunteered with a financial literacy group, drawing from our history without specifics. Sessions covered red flags like referral-heavy schemes, flashing back to the eco-digital pitches' 2% margins and glossy lies. Participants shared stories, kids draining parents' savings on startups, and I advised boundaries, echoing my refusal of the $45,000. Support builds, it doesn't bail, I'd say. One evening, a father mirrored my pain, son in debt, ungrateful despite loans for homes and repairs. His $60,000 tally paled against our $80,000, but the ingratitude stung universal. Kayla's accusation, never helping, faded in hindsight, exposed as deflection. Linda's workshops evolved too. She incorporated role-plays on elder safety, using anonymized scenarios from our suit. What if a relative teaches a lesson by isolating you? Feedback poured in, gratitude from seniors who'd faced similar manipulations. Her confidence grew, and we co-presented once, my engineering precision complementing her empathy. It mended us, turning victimhood into advocacy. Spring thawed the ground, and with it came an unanticipated ripple. Our lawyer called mid-April, voice cautious. A motion from Ethan's side, not for reopening, but a request for contact. Apparently, through therapy mandated by a Spokane job program, Ethan sought closure dialogue. No money ask, just a supervised meeting to express remorse. Kayla stayed out, focusing on their newborn, a boy, named after no one we knew. I declined initially, but Linda urged consideration. Not for them, for us, she said. To say our piece and walk away. We agreed to neutral ground, a coffee shop in Seattle, mediated by a counselor. The drive there felt surreal, evergreens blurring past. Ethan arrived early, thinner, eyes downcast. No Kayla, as promised. We sat across a small table, the mediator outlining rules, no accusations, time limited. He spoke first, voice steady but low. Dad, I've replayed it 1,000 times. Locking Mom in the van, it was to force your hand, make you see we needed that investment. But it was wrong, deadly wrong. Therapy showed me the entitlement, how I twisted your help into expectation. He detailed sessions, unpacking the pyramid schemes, the $80,000 as crutches, not gifts. The audio's pressure from Kayla? He owned enabling it, not shifting blame. I listened, then responded methodically. Intent mattered little when Mom faced 24 more hours of peril. Your remorse now, caught or genuine? He met my gaze. Both, at first. But work on it changed that. I regret the act, the pain, not just the fallout. Linda added softly, it nearly broke us. No hugs, no tears, just words exchanged. The mediator noting progress. We left after 45 minutes, boundaries reaffirmed, no ongoing ties, but the door ajar for proof over time. Back home, quiet satisfaction returned, layered with cautious hope. The meeting didn't erase scars, the civil suit's weight, background flags still shadowing them, but it humanized Ethan anew. Credit rebuilt to 680, steady jobs held, the baby a motivator. Yet doubt persisted, true change demanded consistency, not one talk. Summer hikes resumed, Linda's pottery pieces adorning our shelves, bowls shaped by patient hands. I eyed a cabin rental in the mountains for fall, just us. Family evolved, distant relatives visited, sharing updates without pressure. Ethan's cousin Mark sent photos of the baby, neutral bridges. A year later, another letter came, Ethan's, handwritten. Grateful for the meeting. We've saved for a small home down payment, no loans. If you're open, I'd like to send updates, earn trust. No response needed, we filed it away. Life's trials continued, my full retirement, Linda's gallery show, but we'd navigated the worst with method, not fury. The echoes faded, replaced by forward momentum. Fatherhood's lessons, release with wisdom, protect with quiet strength. Whatever came, we stood ready, unyielding. 2 years after the incident, autumn painted Bellevue in golds and reds, a fitting backdrop for closure. Retirement suited me, consulting from home, walks with Linda along the lake. Her pottery thrived, a local exhibit sold out, her bowls symbols of resilience. Ethan's updates trickled in sparingly, quarterly cards with photos of his son, now toddling, and notes on progress. Credit at 720, promotions at the warehouse, Kayla's shop viable on her own terms. No asks for money, just glimpses of stability. I read the latest over breakfast, Linda sipping tea beside me. He's building something, she said. Doubt lingered, his affidavit still echoed, the deliberate lesson, a scar, but action spoke. The meeting in Seattle had cracked the wall, therapy reports, shared voluntarily, detailed accountability work. No more schemes, they'd joined a financial peer group, repaying old debts incrementally. We responded minimally, proud of the steps. Boundaries held, no visits, no holidays. My journal closed with reflections on fatherhood's arc, from enabling to release. The $80,000 lessons? Priceless now, shared in volunteer talks. Quiet satisfaction peaked, the system, our method, yielded growth on both sides. One evening, as leaves fell, Ethan called, first in years. Dad, the boy's asking about grandparents. If you're ready. I paused, glancing at Linda. Someday, maybe. Keep proving. The line went quiet, then grateful. No rush, time would tell. Life bloomed onward, trips, friends, purpose renewed. The minivan faded to memory, replaced by forward paths. We'd survived, stronger, the family's fractured ties mending in their own measured way.